I have to ask, and I don't know very much about Robert Redford, but he went to great lengths, including hiring you, to make the fishing parts of that movie very realistic. What was that like? How were you approached?
Redford learned about the book. He read it and said, "Yeah, that would make a good movie." And there were two or three scripts that were written, and I read one of the early scripts, not the one he finally finalized, but another one. And
Okay.
and he was really interested in making it, so he went back to visit with Norman. Norman
Mm,
was an English professor at the University of Chicago.
sure.
And Norman said, "You're not going to make that into a movie. You'll just turn it into some kind of Hollywood sex, scandal." And and Norman could tell people what he wanted. Redford told him, "Okay, I'm going to come back 3 times and visit with you, talk to you about this. Is that agreeable?" Norman said, "All okay. And after the third time, you can tell me whether you want to make the movie or not." And after the third time, Norman got really, really excited and said, "Yes, we're going to do this." Then
Hmm.
Norman died, unfortunately,
Uh,
before the movie started. Now, his 2 children were involved in the movie. They were there. Anyway, I got a call in the spring of 1991, in March, actually, from John Deach, who was the production coordinator for the fly fishing part of the movie.
uh-huh.
And he said, "We'd like you to come and work on the movie with us this summer." And I said, "I can't. I'm already booked completely full for the summer with fly fishing schools. I think it's a great, would be make a great movie because I've read the script and I think it would make a great movie, but I just can't do it." I said, "You ought to hire my son, Jason." And he said, "Well, we could make him an intern." And I said, "No, he's not going to work for free." And he said, "Well, have him send his resume." We put the resume in the mail on Wednesday, and on Friday they called us from Hollywood and said, "We want to interview Jason." I mean, dog sleds usually don't go that fast. And so we scheduled to meet with those guys the day after our schools were over. We drove 1,250 miles that day from
Oh
Raton,
my goodness.
Mexico to Livingston, Montana. Got up the next morning, and Jason went, and we actually went to the scene where the father is showing the boys how to cast, and he gets the metronome out there and so on. And they were shooting that scene. I mean, Tom Skerritt, who plays the father, of course,
Right.
said, "Okay, boys, go get the poles." And I turned to the guy I was just sitting beside this guy there. I never met him before. And I said he'd never say poles, he'd say rods. And he jumps up off the back of this truck, yells, "Bob, Bob!" And he run out there. Pretty soon, Redford yells, "Get the book!" So they got the book out. Anybody who would say the word pole for a fishing rod does not deserve the name of angler. From now on, it's rod. We do not say pole. And they changed the script every place.
Wow.
Well, while that was going on, they started to reset the scene. We had to get the cameras reset and everything. So there were a couple of fly rods sitting there. And I said to Jason, I said, "Go grab one of those rods and do some casting, Jason." So he went out and he got it and he cast. They were bamboo rods and they had the scientific angler lines on them that looked like silk lines, but they weren't. They were scientific angler lines. Anyway, so Jason did a little bit of casting, and set the rod down, and came back, and we sat and we talked with the guy, and we didn't know it was Patrick Markey, who was the line producer, which means he was Bob's actual boss on the production. We didn't know that. Just a nice guy sitting there. So anyway, so Patrick and Jason became really good friends, and they hired Jason to do all the casting in the movie. They had 2 other people picked out to do the casting, one for Norman and one for Paul. And since Jason can cast any way he wants to, lots of different ways, they just hired him to do everybody. So he actually doubled for everybody in the movie.